And then so what? There's dungeons in those. They said we're getting a new dungeon or raid every 3 months, and they plan on bringing back a Destiny 1 raid, which would
I
either
can't
be
imagine what Oryx raid that will be.
yeah, King's Fall seems like it's the most likely candidate. Yeah, especially with Witch Queen and Savathun, and it just would kind of make sense. King's Fall, or there's also Wrath. Don't think
Wrath
anyone's
and
really
Crota.
taking Crota too seriously. Although didn't they say that they kind of want to bring it back as a dungeon? Or
Yeah, I think that's what they said.
I saw that a
'cause
while
it
ago.
is a
They
more,
said they were open to it or considering it.
yeah, it is a more dungeon-sized experience in terms of everything. And honestly, man, 3-man in Crota nowadays with the arsenal of power that we have, not at all impossible. Like, honestly, not impossible whatsoever.
Yeah.
You sit there and you think about the boss encounter, yeah, absolutely. You could probably solo sides if you're looking at something like Yut. The bridge encounter might be a little bit trickier, but, you know, you can simplify that, or you can have certain mechanics work in certain ways. Honestly, I really do feel like if you're going to go ahead and make any single raid into a dungeon, absolutely, it was going to be Crota's End.
Plus, they already have the room is already in Destiny 2. It was in the Nightmares in Shadowkeep.
Yeah.
So assets wise and that, you know, development wise, these things are important in terms of having room for stuff. So they have already technically the boss area is already in Destiny 2. They just need to build the rest of it. So I would imagine
they already have Crota too.
Yeah.
Because he's a nightmare as well.
Yeah. So it's not too much of a stretch to imagine they'll probably bring that back as some kind of dungeon experience. But as far as the raid, you would imagine it would be King's Fall, which is a very long raid, very one of the biggest. But also Wrath Machine does have a special place in my heart. That is one of my favorite. You know,
it's
in my
raid,
personal opinion,
honestly.
I would prefer it to. It's between that or Vault of Glass as far as my favorite raid of all time. But I also give Wrath a lot of props because it wasn't the first one. Like Vogue obviously was special because it's the first and it was also very good. But Wrath for just being just in the middle. I guess it was it Destiny 1's last raid?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was the final raid.
So very impressive of them to make such a good raid at one of their, you know, just at the very end of the game's life cycle. But Wrath is, you know, another Fallen is just Wrath is a very, very, very good raid. But thematically, would probably make sense for them to do King's Fall.
Also, I don't know how much of the mechanics behind King's Fall really need to be edited in order to make it viable. You know, Datto was sitting here and making this exact point. In fact, he said maybe you make changes to War Priest and a few changes to Golgoroth so that you can't do the sort of easier method to Golgoroth, and so you have to multi-orbit instead of one-orbing it. But, you know, as far as Oryx is concerned for boss fight, yeah, go for it, you know?
Although I would kind of like to see, I think Golgoroth is one of my favorite encounters of all raids. I think it's such a good, when everything works properly, it's such a good, it's one of those encounters that just feels satisfying to do when you get, you know, 6 people together to coordinate and you kind of rotate like the clock and shoot his crit spot and shoot the orbs. Like Golgoroth's I always liked that encounter. But I do think Oryx, I was never really too fond on even just the damage phase of Oryx. The fact that you're technically not even damaging him, you're just damage, like the ogres are the boss of the Oryx. That was always a thing. Like the ogres are technically the boss and the orbs, but you're not technically, you know, you want to shoot the bad guy. You want to feel like you're damaging him and not just shooting an ogre and then standing in an orb and then he just like loses the core of his health. Like, so I would like to see something maybe tweaked around Oryx so it's more of a boss encounter, but I'd be fine either way. But just a tiny gripe if I was to add one.
Yeah, can't help but agree on that particular front, but I feel as though there's you know, there's different ways in which they can do that. In knowing Destiny 2 and the way that they edited Vault of Glass to make Atheon tough as nails in the last encounter with all the supplicants, because I mean it's a lot of supplicants. I bet you that you could look at a thing where every single time you proc a series of bombs, you then have to cancel a something at the front by just dumping a ton of damage into Oryx's chest. You know, like that to me would make the most sense. Just he does his he does his big doxology attack where he goes ahead and claps his hands in a far more menacing way than Callus ever did. And,
I was thinking of Callus when you did that little.
Oh man, yeah. I tell you, back in the day, we didn't have raid bosses that clapped us and sent us into another plane. They clapped and you died. Like that's as simple as it was, man. It was a wipe.
I miss Callus. Poor Callus.
And then everyone self-resed. It's fine.
Shout out to Callus.
Yeah. Hope Callus is still doing well. Oh wait.
Yeah, not looking good upon that Glycon.